So there we go. Let me start. I'm Heather Fitzgibbon. I'm one of the co-directors of the CODEX Summer Institute and do something on the CODEX Board of Directors. I don't know what that title is. Show up and do things, I think is what that is. Jacob Heil and I run the CODEX Summer Institute. Jacob is sadly not well today, so you are stuck with just me. But since I'm recording it, Jacob, when you listen to this, you could add an addendum of everything I get wrong. So we could go through this and you could say, no, Heather said this, but this was wrong. But let me just start, and others might come in with introducing ourselves. I'll say a little bit more about myself in a second. Just say something about, introduce yourself, your role at your institution, and your involvement with CODEX, either what you, how you've been involved before, what you bring, or if you're thinking about a project, what that project might be. It's also all right to say, I'm just curious, I have no idea. So we'll do that. Again, I'm Heather Fitzgibbon. I'm a sociologist at the College of Wooster. I got involved with CODEX as a project when I was dean at Wooster, and we're really trying to bring about greater involvement among faculty and students in digital projects. And I went to the DHSI, the Digital Humanities Summer Institute, and drank all the Kool-Aid there. And I had so much fun, and I fell in love with the approach, and I'm happy to continue that work now with the Ohio 5. So if we can just go around, I'll call on you just based on your names. Megan, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Megan Mitchell. I'm in the libraries at Oberlin College. My job title is Academic Engagement and Digital Initiatives Coordinator. I support faculty and students who are interested in doing anything in the digital realm. Last year, I was a speaker at CODEX, and I talked about uses of Scalar as a platform for digital storytelling.
Yeah, thank you. Hoda.
All right, my name is Hoda Yousef. I teach modern Middle East history here at Denison. I am a two-time alumni, I guess, of the CODEX Institute. I did it in 2020 and then again last summer in 2021. And it was primarily developing and then expanding a course that I have taught twice now on visualizing the Ottoman Mediterranean.
Thank you. Debbie. I'm just going across where you are on my screen.
Hi, I'm Debbie Andreadis. I'm Deputy Director of the Libraries at Denison, and I help out with digital projects in various departments here on campus. So.
Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Armour from the College of Wooster. I was involved in CODEX in 2020, not in 2021. However, I might be working with our presenter today because our delightful colleague had the audacity to leave our institution. So, but I'm delighted to be a part.
Yay. Bhakti.
Hi, everyone. I am Bhakti Mamtora at the College of Wooster. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Religious Studies, and I teach courses on South Asian traditions. I had participated in CODEX in 2021 to work on my Death and Afterlives course and transformed it from, or to add digital learning objectives and then assessments and the whole 9 yards in development, in transforming the course from what it was before into this digitally focused course. So you'll hear more from us a little bit later today, and I look forward to telling you all about that experience.
And the other us is Jenna. So tell us about yourself, Jenna.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jenna, and I am a senior sociology major and religious studies minor at the College of Wooster. And so I participated in the CODEX conference over the summer with Dr. Mamtora on our class and just provide a student perspective, and very excited to have this conversation later today.
Thank you. Jenna is also my senior independent study student, our meetings are at 1. So I said, why don't you just come early? And this would be great and talk about the experience. So thank you for being here. Alex.
Thanks. My name is Alex Alderman. I'm an instructional designer with the Center for Innovative Pedagogy at Kenyon College. And I've been involved in CODEX for the past 2 years. I worked with Micah Myers on his Mapping Ancient Text project 2 years ago. And I've given presentations at the last 2 CODEXs too. So, and I'm also interested if people want to do any kind of intercollegiate collaborations on things, I'm always up for that. So just keep me in mind.
Thank you. And Zach is very busy these days.
I am. I'm Zach Sharrow. I am the interim librarian of the College at Wooster. I am a CODEX 2020 participant, but I am just here today to kind of check out the conversation, I suppose.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I am sorry, all I have is a phone number. Person with a phone number.
I think that's me. Sorry. I'm about to be able to join via computer, but my name is Courtney McInerney Knipp. I am at Ohio Wesleyan University, and I teach in the drama program, and my focus is on theater and social change and applied theater. And I'm really interested in what interactive practices for education and societal change look like when they are in a digital space. And I also just feel like we're going to be teaching in digital spaces many times going into the future. So I'm hoping to think more innovative, in more innovative ways about my own pedagogy.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna, as Jacob had promised you all, we're gonna try and keep this as quick as possible. So I'm gonna do a really quick overview of CODEX, which most of you know about. A bunch of you have been participated already, but again, for those who might log in and aren't aware of it, as you know, and chime in when I get something wrong, any of you old hands who have done this. CODEX stemmed from a series of Mellon grants we got over the years with the Ohio 5 to increase participation in the digital liberal arts, early on digital humanities, but then expanding that to the digital liberal arts. We brought in Jacob Heil as our first postdoc worker to help go around the Ohio 5 and initiate projects. And then Wooster very wisely took him on and captured him for our own. After the end of the last Mellon grant, we were really talking about how, as a consortium, can we build on the work we had done with that. And we had a series of meetings and created the CODEX project, which is focused on initiating various enterprises across the 5 institutions, establishing kind of creative models for thinking about digital projects. And part of the idea behind that is one of the real strengths of digital liberal arts projects are the collaborative aspects of those. And so thinking about how do we create these collaborative works between faculty, staff, and students, and between institutions, and how do we do that? And so we came up with the idea of the CODEX Summer Institute. We had a number of different working groups, and one of the working groups had suggested, well, why don't we hold a summer institute to help faculty, staff, and students develop together digital pedagogy projects. And there are lots of institutes like this, lots of institutes out there on digital liberal arts. There's, I'd already mentioned the DHSI, the Digital Humanities Summer Institute. We can't copy Victoria, BC, unfortunately, which is one of the great draws of going to DHSI. But Ohio, we can come close. There's also Iliad's, someone help me, something liberal arts, digital something.
For liberal arts, digital scholarship.
Yeah, something like that. And when we created CODEX, it was very much on an Iliad's model. And what Iliads does, I went once ages ago at Hamilton. Iliads brings in teams of faculty, staff, and students working on projects in the same space together so that they can get energy, ideas from one another. And I think it was very much on the Iliads model that we created the CODEX Institute. The difference, though, is that we are focusing it on pedagogy and thinking about how do we bring digital projects into the classroom that engage the students in various ways. So that's the origins. Anything I'm missing? Megan, Alex, Debbie? Okay. Really quickly then, the one wrinkle to this whole thing was money. And so we applied for grants and we got a very generous grant from the Hewlett Foundation. And the thing that the Hewlett Foundation is particularly interested in is open pedagogy. And by that, they mean putting out there on the internet projects that anyone can access and getting at issues of greater accessibility and equity in education through open pedagogical projects. That's not exactly what we're doing, but it works and it fits. So part of our discussions then have been about how to make these projects openly accessible projects and share as a community those works. So an aspect of CODEX is, we're not there yet, but we're looking to create a hub where we can share these curricular projects. So if someone else is teaching a course on mapping in the Mediterranean or on death and dying, they can create those projects. Questions about CODEX or just broadly the Institute? Okay, let me say a little bit about the shape of the week, and I'll say just a little bit about the application process, and then we'll hear from old timers to talk about their experiences a bit. So we had, Ben Daigle and I had originally designed this 2 years ago to be in person. And the idea behind the in-person is exactly as I said with Iliads, that you're working as a group, and if you've been to projects like this, there's a real value to be only focused on that project, where you are not at home, you're not answering your email, you're not in your office, you are together in this space, intensely working on the project. And if you get stuck, there are people down the hall from you doing the same thing, and you can knock on their doors. And then you gather for beverages after, and there's a synergy, a kind of creative idea sharing that we were hoping to happen. And then COVID. And so we did it the last 2 years online, which worked well, actually, I think in many respects. We bring in, so the majority, and what we've learned over the past 2 years is what people really want is time. They really want the time to work with one another, and that's the value. But we also want to kind of spark ideas. So we bring in a couple of workshop speakers. Alex has done that wonderfully both years. And we bring folks from outside of the Ohio 5 to be speakers. Jacob and I don't know what that will look like this summer. What we're toying with, just to put it out there, if any of you have ideas, there are two models for the speakers. One is that they come in as consultants and they're there for the week. And let's say it's a GIS expert. And if the teams are working, there's someone who's an expert on that who can help them out. That's really valuable. The other is just to spark creativity and give us ideas and give us a talk on something. The value of the second one is we can afford it because the consultant model is very expensive. And if the person is just a speaker, we could do it virtually, where those of us from the Ohio 5 are in a place together. but the person is virtually, that saves lots of money because we don't have a huge budget. So we're toying with that. And what the nature of the workshops looks like depends on the interests of those who are participating in the institute. So we kind of look at the proposals that come in and we say, what do these have in common? What do we think folks need to learn? What are they interested in finding out about? So we'll do that process. So most of the week you are working on your own. We get together at the end of the day, and I've actually found, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I found those discussions really fruitful and interesting and prompting, you know, what issues have come up this week. Last year, we had a pretty big cohort of students, which was lovely. Again, borrowing from Iliad's, the year I went to Iliad's was the first year there was a huge cohort of students, and they created this undergraduate digital research group that shared ideas across the years. I don't know, Megan, do you know, is it still going? I'm not sure.
Still, there's a thread there. I don't think it's quite as robust as it was that initial year, but on Iliad's, we are maintaining the channel of communication.
Yeah, that's great. So that's generally what the week looks like. You're mostly working on your own. We pull you out for a couple of workshops and discussions as a group. When we're in person, there will be a little bit more of that. Let's take a coffee break. And what are you working on? What's going on? We're going to be in Kenyon's new fabulous Chalmers library. Fabulous, I assume. I haven't seen it yet. And living in apartments there. So that's what it's going to look like. Really quickly, the proposal. Jacob and I are trying to keep it as non-invasive as possible. Basically, we want you to tell us your idea, what your goals are, your team members, timeline. I am going to put in the chat. I don't know if that shows up on the recording, however. Does anyone know that? Probably doesn't, right? The application. But we want to know, what experience do you have with the technology? Are there ethical issues? Sustainability? How will you keep this going over the years? And then why does it make sense to do this via CODEX? Why can't you just do it on your own? Why would this help you? To be honest, if we have 50 applications for 10 slots, then we'll have to rank them and sort them. Usually we have about enough slots for the people who want to be there. And so what the application process lets us do is help you be more productive during the summer by looking at things you might consider doing, by looking at that and say, hey, we notice you haven't talked to your ed tech person. You might think about doing that. Or here's a person doing something similar. You might, here are things you might do before you come to the summer, and hopefully that's helpful. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I've talked too much, and ask a couple of teams from the past to talk, and then we'll open that up for Q&A. Hoda, can you, I know you've got to run, so can you talk a little bit about your experience?
Sure. So first, thank you for that introduction. I think that you did a really nice job of sort of summing up what it feels like to be at CODEX and like what we hopefully try to do. My experience has been really, really good, clearly, because I did it twice. I thought it was really helpful the first time. And so I came back for more. But what I think was very clarifying about having that week to work with students and our ETS, our educational technology folks, was that it really made me concentrate particularly on learning objectives. And I think that is the biggest thing actually that I've gotten out of CODEX, is that there are many, many cool things to do, right? There are maps and networks and this and right, like there's you know, as many technologies as you can imagine to do almost anything that you can think of, right? But what has been very helpful for me, and that I would strongly encourage anybody who attends or is thinking about attending CODEX, is to use that time not just to sort of find the newest, greatest thing, but really think about how that newest, greatest thing is going to help you achieve your learning objectives for that particular course. I've found it has been just incredibly clarifying to me, right? That there are certain things that I'm doing that maybe I can just drop because they don't really help, right? Move the project forward. And other things that, I mean, even today, this actually just happened to me yesterday. Last summer, I was working on a timeline JS project for this class. And the first thing that we did when we started thinking about this as a project was what was our learning objectives for that particular project. And of course, now it's been like 7 months since we wrote out that document, over the summer. And then yesterday I was going to teach it. And so I actually had to go in and look at the assignment. And then I was looking at the learning goals. I'm like, are these really my learning goals? And they are. And all of a sudden I had to switch my lesson plan. I was really focused on how am I going to get the students to use this thing and what's step 1 and what's step 2, right? Rather than sort of thinking holistically about the point of this assignment is to get them to think about time and the connection between local people, like average people, and how they would have experienced major historical events. And just that little shift in realizing that was my objective with this assignment made me rethink the way that I was, planning to go into that class. It wasn't about the technology; it's about what this technology can do for what I want, what I want my students to get out of it. So I think that has been really for me, and that's something I would definitely recommend everybody to think about. There's lots of things to do, and they're all very exciting, but to really think about it in the context of your particular course, your particular project, what it is that you're trying to achieve. So as a starting point, I think that's where I would say that it was also, I have to say, in terms of like the speakers and the workshops, those were also really helpful for that too, right? There were lots of people that we could, set up appointments with, Jacob and Heather, but also, right, some of the speakers and some of the resources from other colleges, even just having a pair of eyes that are not, in our group, to sort of sit down and look at what we were working on. And does this make sense? Should we be looking at it this way? Right. So in terms of shared resources, it was just an amazing experience. And I clearly highly recommend it to anybody who can pull together a proposal. So yeah.
Bhakti and then Jenna, can you guys talk about your suggestions, your experience?
Yes. Thank you, Heather, for that introduction and giving us an overview of CODEX and the application process. For anyone that is thinking about the application process and whether it would be too much, I just want to reinforce that you'll be able to put it together very quickly, and it doesn't require too much time and effort. So I wholeheartedly encourage anyone that's interested in applying to take advantage of this opportunity. I had found that CODEX was an incredible experience in trying to think about how to incorporate digital pedagogy learning objectives into an existing course that I had worked with, so death and afterlives. And over the course of CODEX, what we did was we started with the old syllabus, called the 1.0 version of the syllabus that we had, and then began carving out or thinking about what those new learning objectives would be with the final project or idea in mind. And because our project concerns a community partner as well, one of the aims that we were trying to do, or one of the things that we were trying to accomplish, is to create these digital videos that would then be used by families and groups for their own purposes. And part of what we did during CODEX is identify first, what are the elements of reflection that will need to take place at the beginning, middle, and end stages on part of the students to be able to carry out this project? And then what are the tools that are necessary to give them, that they'll need to also move forward with this project? The tools ranging from how do I conduct interviews, ask people questions, what are the ethics of engaging with individuals and doing interviews, to the very practical, how do I edit a video on like QuickTime or Movie Maker or something like that? And then how do I put together a story and a narrative? So all of these different elements that went into understanding, or like helping us understand what a digital project could look like, and then how can this digital project be connected to learning objectives? What are the methods for assessing it? Because all of those pieces need to fit very tightly together for it to work as a larger whole. and also make an impact, not only for the people that we wanted to serve, but also the students in terms of learning some very important skills that they can also use to then think critically about the digital media materials that they might engage with on a much more regular basis without actually thinking about, okay, so, what's happening on Instagram or social media. They might be consuming that, but not thinking about that. So as an unintended positive consequence, to get them to think a little bit more deeply and critically about that. We really appreciated the opportunity to work independently and as a team. So there were a couple of sessions during CODEX that the entire group came together for over the course of the week. If I'm remembering correctly, there were 3, one on public facing projects, another one on decolonizing digital pedagogy, and then open pedagogy for the hopeful, I think was the third one that we had. And those provided context and inspiration for things that we could do, for how we could frame these projects, run with them, and develop, or start with idea and then go all the way to what can this look like in like the best possible version of it. And then the opportunities to meet with Heather and Jacob, as well as Missy. And in our group, we also had Megan, and Emily's going to be working with us going forward. So to have all of those voices working together to figure out how this can be a meaningful project for the students and how it can be planned and executed in a way that is manageable was also very, very important conversation that we had. So at the end of it, we were able to come out with a revised syllabus, some very specific reflection assignments, and a project plan. So when I started this semester in like just a couple of weeks ago, we could hit the ground running, and it was all very much set up and good to go. So I will stop there, and I will also convey my apologies for having to depart early. I am double booked, and so I will pass it over, I guess, to Jenna, if that's okay, to carry forward what the student experience was. And then I'm happy to take questions over email, or if anything comes, I'm more than happy to speak to anybody and persuade them positively to enjoy CODEX as much as I did. So thank you all.
I asked Jenna to come, partly to encourage folks to think about including students directly in the summer project. When we created CODEX, we made the very clear decision that we wanted student participation and we wanted it to be fully inclusive. So students receive the same stipends that faculty receive, and they are contributors and equal partners in that process. So I asked Jenna to talk about that experience. Jenna.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I'm very excited to reflect on my CODEX experience, especially just kind of circling back to when it was in the initial project development stage. Dr. Mamtora had reached out to me about being a part of the conference, and I was so confused because I had never heard the word digital pedagogy before. I looked at the information for CODEX and I said, what is this? I want to be a part of it. And why do you need my help? And so I was truly honored to be a part of the team. And I think that CODEX brought a lot of fruitful discussion and certainly brought angles to the course design that I, as a student, had never before seen. So even as a senior in my last semester, I'm in my 8th round of taking 3 or 4 classes every semester. And you don't really think about the bare bones of what goes into course construction or what a professor is thinking about when they say, what do I want students to get out of this course? And what do I want to get out by teaching this course? And so I think just some useful things as we moved forward, the opportunity to work so closely, not only with faculty from the College of Wooster where I was from, but also listening to the experiences and perspectives of other folks in the Ohio 5 was so wonderful. I mean, I think that the way that this conference is structured is that you're never comparing yourself to other projects. You're celebrating and really looking at the different strengths of what other schools are offering and how those programs are unique to their communities and what they bring. And so it's just an excellent community of support. And even though I'm not a professor, I'm not someone teaching, I was able to be a part of that. And I think it was something I will certainly carry forward. Additionally, I think that fostering environments of learning for the sake of learning was a big contention throughout the week, and just ensuring that there was a lot of collaboration. And we talked to in some of the workshops about that student to teacher power dynamic that might be present in some classrooms, and having students as part of your team who are building your courses, bringing in their own skills with different softwares or technologies. Or in my case, because I took the class with Dr. Mamtora, I was able to say, this is what I loved about our class. I loved the reflective components. I think that other students would benefit from this. Or what if we tried to approach XYZ topic from this angle instead? I think it really levels the playing field in those sense. It allows students and professors to become collaborators instead of one delivering information and one receiving. It really turns that into a two-way street. Yeah, I think additionally, just in terms of, I think Hoda spoke really well to this too, learning objectives. So kind of establishing, if it is a course design, what you want that to look like and how you want students to get involved. I think we bring a lot of energy. If there's a student that you enjoy in the class and maybe want to get to know better, you're going to spend a lot of time with them. So I think that's a great way to do that. But yeah, I think also just meeting other students from Oberlin, Kenyon, and Denison who I've and Ohio Wesleyan who I've interacted with before, but not in this close professional sense, was really valuable. So I'd be happy to speak to any questions that you might have. I know that was a lot of words in one space, but I certainly love my experience, and I would encourage you to have students a part of the team if that option is available to you. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Jenna. All right, we have question. Yeah, Hoda.
Can I make one point or one comment? I mean, I'm seeing this at Denison, they just started a digital humanities minor. And I think that one thing that is, at least for me, was a little bit intimidating maybe about CODEX was the whole group part of it. I think as, well, especially as a humanities faculty, like we're sort of independent agents who are kind of used to like going off and doing our research in some archive or something, whatever, right? And then we come back and we write solitarily, and it's me and the computer duking it out at the beginning of the semester trying to get my courses up, right? Like it's sort of like these sort of, I'm used to at least working kind of independently. And so one of the things that was a little bit intimidating with the application process was I need to pull together a team. And I didn't quite appreciate how important that was in starting these conversations with students, with our educational technologists, with our librarians, like to think about the different aspects of what it means to do a digital humanities project in the classroom, right? So I think just the process of thinking about what you might want to do and reaching out to those resources, and then ideally getting a week to spend time with those resources is really one of the real strengths of this program. So kudos to the designers there.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, I think Courtney may be our only newbie here, or those of you who have been before, but questions about what our thinking is for this summer. Anything we can answer for anybody? While I've got some of you here, and then just jump in with other questions or thoughts if you have them. Do any of those of you who have been to CODEX before have thoughts on workshops that you think would benefit the Ohio 5? Right, we open those up. If they are remote, we got to figure this out for this summer, what that would look like. But we have in the past opened them up to anyone in the Ohio 5, and that's been valuable for some. Any topics that you think would be particularly valuable for folks this summer?
Dr. Fitzgibbon, I don't know if this would be possible with the structure, but I think one of the first days we talked about platforms and softwares, and it was just a run through of Scalar and some other. I wonder if it might be beneficial to do those before the week. You know, if someone is like introduced and says, okay, I think I'm going to settle on this particular software, and then they'd have the entire week to work and develop instead of maybe being introduced to it while they possibly already have a framework for a different project.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We do, and I forgot to mention this, we do an orientation session at the beginning of the summer, I think. Yeah, June, I think. And maybe that would be a time to do that, so that as you begin thinking about that, you have more time to develop that. Great idea. Yeah. Other thoughts?
It's kind of a minor obsession of mine, so this might sound familiar to people who were with me last 2 cohorts, but I thought the workshop on why or how to make a project public brought up some really wonderful points about ethics
Yeah.
and purpose and objectives. And something I'm struggling with, I continue to struggle with. So I think it's a really interesting question about the centrality of public facing projects to digital, like whether they need to be, do they have to be, right? I've kind of, like, to put some context to this, like my project that I did last year was not public facing. And part of the reason was because my objective was not actually to create something for the world. It was to get students to think differently about something in the class, right? So digital projects, they're a tool, right? Like and they can serve many, many different kind of masters. So it's, or mistresses, let's use mistresses. So they can serve several mistresses at the same time, right? So how do we balance those, right? There is a real benefit to having something public and you can show it off and whatever, or it's, you know, knowledge that other people can use, or, right? So I think the question of why public, like as a question, I really enjoyed that, and I enjoy thinking about it. So I would definitely recommend that again.
Actually, I really enjoyed both workshop presenters last year. I thought they were awesome, but those discussions on why and if public and why you're doing this were great. Those of you, Megan, Emily, Alex, who are working with faculty with digital projects, are there projects out there you imagine that folks might need, some topics out there that you're hearing faculty are looking at that we might consider?
Actually, the issue that's highest on my radar screen right now, which is really bound up with the public facing part of the equation, is ADA accessibility of public facing projects, and what are your bottom line responsibilities for meeting certain standards, and when is it acceptable to offer accommodation if you cannot completely remediate issues, because not everything can be delivered digitally in the same way. So those are the kinds of things that are rattling on my head. And in regards to specific projects here, but not necessarily upcoming projects, but existing projects.
In past years, we had that as part of the application process for you to tell us how you were going to make this accessible. And we found that people didn't know what it was and didn't know what to say. And that reading all the applications, we said, yeah, they don't know what we meant by that. So we decided they don't know enough yet. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to dismiss the project because of that. So we cut it from the application because most faculty don't know how to do that. So yeah, that's a good.
And I think even until you start building something, you don't necessarily know what issues you're going to face. It's
exactly.
You can't solve everything before you get started, which is why we do it. Process, right? Process over product.
Emily, what were you going to say?
I wanted to jump in front of Alex because he presented last year, but I do think that presentation about just structuring your project and the assessment pieces, I mean, like Hoda just said about really tuning into the learning objectives. I know that faculty feel like, well, I've already been to a session like that, but those kinds of guided, like, and I almost hate to say the word, almost forced, almost required pieces, it's a just-in-time thing. You're like, well, now I got to turn my attention to those principles for this project, and I really need to align some of those things early on in the week, you know, because I haven't had time to think about it. You know, I did the proposal, but like now's the time to actually get to it. So I thought Alex's presentation was great last year. It wasn't same old, but there's always new nuggets that just spur you on. And because there are so many facets, Heather, like in the application and the different criterion, it is hard to kind of decide to prioritize, you know, where's my focus here?
Yeah.
So.
Agreed, thanks. Anything else? Hearing a definite silence.
Alex is not going to say anything. Come on, Alex.
I don't know. There's a great cue. What am I supposed to do with that? No, but like, and for me, that's the thing is, I think that faculty they know they have to do that for the accreditation people, and some of them have to do that, want to communicate things to the students, but it really helps if you're in a collaborative project for people to know what the point of something is and how far to go with it, what the expectations are. So it's I do agree with that. So that's been a thing with me. Like I've done a summer course design institute for the past like 4 or 5 years here at Kenyon, and that's always been a big part of that. I guess one thing that I would say that was really, I think, advantageous to my experience in CODEX 2 years ago, especially, was the fact that like to echo what Hoda said before, shared resources. That thing is great because there are people who work on things in other places. And when we were trying to do mapping software things, and we're like, what are the limits of this software? What can we actually do? And we had people who had actually tinkered with these things for long periods of time who could tell us, don't even try to do that, and go somewhere else, yada, yada. And that was very helpful. But I think something that I think that the collaborative aspect of this that was helpful is that even at small colleges, we can get really into narrow roles. And I think it was a helpful knowledge sharing experience. And so, for instance, like this fall, when Joe had kind of an emergency to deal with, I had to sub in for him for what was going on with the mapping HTX stuff. And I really wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't been a part of this, and we hadn't reviewed stuff together and made that effort together. So I'm really glad I think this is a good knowledge sharing kind of format, both within colleges or both between colleges and within within the staff of a single college. So that was hugely beneficial for me. As for what's on the horizon, I mean, we're doing some outreach with faculty in the next couple of weeks, so I think we'll keep our ear to that.
Thanks.
I think I want to plug, as long as people are here, we are hosting our second virtual conference together with the assistance of the Ohio 5 in June of this year, and we are especially interested in inclusivity initiatives from small colleges. If you haven't seen a call for papers for that, you're going to get another one the 1st of February. And so like if that's another kind of thing you want to share your ideas for, please participate in that. We're very eager to hear what people have to say. So that's my little plug there, if you're giving me a second to talk.
Thank you. I'll go. Thank you so much for coming. Drop either Jacob or me an email if you have any questions or any bright ideas. Some of you we've asked, Jacob and I, Emily, Megan, we've invited you to a focus group to how to make some of the team structures work better. So for those of you we'll see on that, I look forward to that conversation too. And I guess Jenna's the one lone volunteer coming in to speak. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. And we will hopefully see you all this summer. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.